not here anymore. I TiVoed something. It's Netflix, but in a box in your home, back in the early days, right? So that's what he's talking about. I'm going to fast forward to where we are. See what we're doing.
Nobody bought one. But if the others just are innovate by why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed, and it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there are 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead, not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead, not for them, for ourselves.
Okay, let's get back to the branding part. He actually has a few TEDx about leadership that I think you should consider watching, which are a little newer than this one. This is from 2009, but it's still a great thing. So, the essence of what Simon Sinek is saying, and the essence of what people who believe in holistic branding are saying, is we have to come back to the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing. Because if we're just selling a feature, it's going to go very fast and somebody else will do it, and they'll have another reason, cheaper, faster, another color, availability, whatever it might be. The people will join that instead. I don't know if you got the thing he said about Apple, but essentially Apple is creating, they came out of the computer industry. I'm a child of the 80s, right? I was young in the 80s, and we're all having great fun watching the Apple products because they're a little more fun than the other products in the marketplace, right? So, but I never perceived Apple as anything else as a competitor to all the other computer manufacturers. Actually, when the Apple MacBook came on, which is one of the most popular products today, it had a fail ratio of 20%. But even though that 20% of their MacBooks failed, the people who had failed MacBooks went into the stores and said, you know, my MacBook failed, and they would say, yeah, it's going to take 6 weeks, you're going to get it back. I said, it's all good. And these people will still go out and say, I love my MacBook. Now, if you had a Dell and it was failing, you would call Dell on the hotline and you'd be screaming at them. And they'll say, yeah, okay, you need to bring it to me. And you bring it to them and say, okay, when can I get it back? 6 weeks. Say, what? I need my computer. But for some reason, Apple users don't do that in the same degree that other people do. So, you saw what he was saying. I'm just going to recap that one time. We're going to go through a few other examples. So, they could have said, we make great computers, they're beautiful designs, simple to use, and user-friendly. You want to buy one. Probably, if you relate that to your own business, it could be what you're saying at present moment. So if we take our kitty pals, what are you telling your clients right now? What is the belief or the pitch you're giving? You're saying, okay, so it's, again, a what statement, right? And if you want really truly people to follow you, and the reason I showed this video is also because of the theoretical part of where your customers are. If you want massive market entry, you need to get people to follow you and believe in what you do so you can get early adopters and people to start shopping with you and tell their friends, oh, of course, I buy all the toys for all my friends on KittyPal. Because they are, and if you're just saying, well, because they have the cheapest toys and all that, then they'll go and look for another platform tomorrow which has cheaper toys. So you need to go into an exercise and figure out how can I create a value proposition for KittyPal that is appealing that people will follow. Of course, one of the fears is you make an appeal that nobody will follow. That happens too. You can have beliefs that nobody else shares. So it doesn't have to mean that just because you make a why statement that everybody say, yeah, right? It doesn't work like that. So what he's saying in a sense is Apple have changed their, in the 80s, they changed the way, if you can read it, they're saying everything we do, we believe is challenging the status quo. Right? They're saying everything we do is changing what is there. Now, argumentatively, standing in 2016, I don't think the iPhone is changing much. But still, tech media is saying our iPhone 7 is coming out, and it's going to change the way we see the world. And we're all excited. We're all like, oh my God, that iPhone 7 is going to be great. Right? It's going to be flatter, thinner, but it's going to have these cool things that they haven't talked about before. So, how many of you were excited about Siri? How many of you are still excited about Siri? You know, these are things that are, Siri is created by a Danish guy, right? And he sold it, and he said, selling it, he came out with his hands up and said, finally somebody bought this piece of crap, because it is old technology. You know, it's not very difficult to make speech recognition on your phone. And Windows has followed with Card 10 or what's called, and then you have Android have their own. So there's nothing really innovative in what Apple have done. They just wrap it nicely and they tell a story about it. And they're going to do a keynote where somebody's going to stand on a black background with a white T-shirt or the other way around, and they're going to say something really, really inspiring. Saying, you know, we believe changing status quo, and because we know people really need to be more effective in their everyday, we made it easier to talk to that complicated internet by just pushing a button and say, hey, take me home. So, and that's why they actually are saying the way we challenge the status quo is by building easy, what they call it, simple products that are beautiful designed and are user-friendly. Just happens to be computers. And that's why you heard Simon Sinek before say, what can be encapsulated in the brand? And it's one of the most important elements when you're building a brand, is defining how you want to narrow it down. Car rental cannot do sailboat rental. Or can it? Right?
No, cannot.
It would be difficult to go out and say, you know, we're car rental, we just happens to rent out cheap boats. Right? People say, that doesn't really fly for me. So in your naming, in your branding, in your vision, you have to figure out how broad do you want to be. So sometimes the descriptive message is good, sometimes it's not. How many of you know Rocket Internet? Yeah? They do stuff like Lazada, Zalora, Foodpanda. They have disrupted the internet by being aggressive and really going to the point, being excellent at executing. And they're clever guys, German engineers in the background, all good. But in Germany, they're failing on quite a lot of their projects at the moment. Let me mention Foodpanda. Why is Foodpanda failing? They get 25% of any order that goes through Foodpanda, and they don't deliver anything. They only take the order, 25%. And they were doing millions of transactions. How can you fail? Well, first of all, they failed because there was somebody disrupting the business for them. You want to take a guess who disrupted the food delivery business for Foodpanda? It could have been Gojek, yeah, but it wasn't in Germany. It was in Germany. So it was Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola disrupted the whole food delivery industry, and they'll come here and do the same. So if any of you have friends in that industry, tell them, sell your shares, get out. Because what Coca-Cola said to the restaurants, I'm going to help you get people from the street to come in and eat in your restaurant. And I'm going to make sure that they get the best picture of you to make the best and easiest way to find your beautiful restaurants and what you do. I'm going to make booking easy. I'm going to make them choose their table. I'm going to give them all the facilities they want. And you know what? You don't pay a cent. And Foodpanda says, that's not sustainable. You need to make money. Of course, says, we do. The only thing we ask from the people joining our platform is that they are selling Coca-Cola. So if you're a restaurant and you want to sell soft drinks, you can choose not to sell Coca-Cola, Pepsi, but you won't be on our platform. We're just generating, in a country with 70 million people, generating around 35 million reservations a week. If you don't want to be on that, it's okay. I'm never going to charge you. No. But you just need to use Coca-Cola. So in Germany, Foodpanda is getting sliced like crazy. So that's why I'm saying, if we're in a disruptive business, because there's no real, what would be the why of Foodpanda? They have a lot of what's right. They have a lot of cheap, fast delivery, easy cook, have all these things. But there's no emotion. I don't feel connected to Foodpanda. They're just fixing a problem for me temporarily. They might fix it daily or weekly or monthly or yearly, but I have no brand connotation to it. I don't feel that they're good or bad at the moment I'm buying. So let's just take a few other examples. And you cannot cheat, right? Because you saw a few of them. If I remember. Yeah, I think you saw them. So this is the old statement from Starbucks. It's pretty good, huh? We're in the coffee business and we're serving people. But they found out that it's limiting what they're doing. I don't know. You went to Starbucks last week, I guess.
No, I actually don't do this.
Ah, you don't do. Who went to Starbucks last week? None of you. None of you. Amazing. Okay. I would have asked, did you buy a coffee? And the answer would probably be no. Because you don't go to Starbucks to buy coffee anymore. So, we're in the people business serving coffee. We are not in the coffee business serving people. They just turn it around. They say, actually, we're just here to service you. We're here to make your home away from home. And I'll give you an example of how they market themselves in the United States. And maybe you like it, maybe you don't. So you see a commercial running, and you see this elderly man and his wife. They're sitting in a small round table. And it says Wednesday, and they're coming in on a Wednesday. They're sitting around the table. They're getting a cup of coffee each, and they're sharing this piece of pie. Fast forward next Wednesday, they come back, they do the same. You see it repeatedly again and again and again. Suddenly, you see an empty table, an empty table, an empty table. And after a few empty tables, the elderly woman comes back. And she sits at the table, and she has nothing in front of her. And she's sitting and thinking. So Wednesday after Wednesday, her and the wife and his husband were coming to this place because it was a home away from home. But unfortunately, her husband died. So the manager of the Starbucks comes down in the video and sits beside her and puts a cup of coffee and a piece of pie and starts sharing the pie with her. And the truth of the matter is, the majority of people seeing this will emotionally get detached to the brand, saying, wow, I would really like to be in a Starbucks where they're taking care of my granny like that. Oh my God, I'm going to support them. Because it's not our rational brand that is taking that decision, it's our emotional brand. So if you see brands like Starbucks, they will really do emotional branding. You're home away from home. You meet friends here. These are the kind of things they will say. Okay? Any guess? You don't have to know. They came to IKEA, exactly. It's Swedish, it's beautiful. And this is what they said when I was young. They said, we have a collection of beautiful furniture at a surprisingly low price, but you have to make it yourself. Right? And there was a lot of people who said, I can't afford expensive furniture, so I'll go and I'll try and see what I can do with it. Right? So what they found is, it's very limiting. So they changed the world. And they said, we believe everyone should have a home instead of a house. A home is a place for individual energy, fun, and comfort, and it's the base for a challenging life. And the payoff, that's why we offer a wide range of well-designed, functional home furnishing products at prices so low that many people as possible will be able to afford them. So they're now not only doing furniture, they're creating a home. And you know what IKEA is building in Sweden? They're building apartment buildings. They're building houses filled with all the things from the stores. But now you wouldn't be afraid in Sweden to go online to IKEA houses and buy a house online because you trust that it's good quality for the price. They will preserve the environment around you. It's all going to be okay, right? So this is, of course, they just say, we do our part, you have to do yours, because you still have to assemble your shit in IKEA. That's how
They have a $100 charge to have someone do it for you, though.
Yes, they do. In a few countries around the world, here, Russia, and elsewhere, people don't really want to do it themselves. So the people who can actually afford to go into IKEA, they will rather spend the same amount that they spend on the furniture to get it assembled. It's actually pretty simple. Okay. So, I'm part of something called World Most Valuable Brand. And we are very proud that we launched in Indonesia last week, and tomorrow we have our next lunch. And this is about the thing that when you're doing things today, you have to be honest, transparent, and add value. Now, there will be things where you say it doesn't apply, and arguments. Let's take one of the bad guys. Let's take Patamina. Are they honest, transparent, and add value? Difficult to argue. But none of the matter of the fact, they're actually trying to change. They're trying to say, we need to change our branding because people in the future probably won't buy petrol. So if we want to be here in 10 years' time, we have to give them something else. And if we want to get them something else, we need to be more honest and more transparent in what's happening. Cigarette industry. BAT, British American Tobacco, second largest producer in the world, they're saying our mission right now is to make a healthy cigarette. So they're putting a lot of their proceeds into R&D to create a healthy cigarette. But it's of course difficult to have an honest and transparent discussion about a product that's killing people. But we are dealing with oil companies, we are dealing with pharmaceuticals. Think about pharmaceuticals for a second. What is motivating a pharmaceutical? Most pharmaceuticals don't have a why statement. There's a Danish company called Novo Nordisk. If they were really saying, we want to remove diabetes from this planet of the earth, what would happen to their company? It would disappear, because the only product they're actually doing is diabetes medicine, right? So if they were really honest and transparent about what they were doing, they would have a problem with their brand statement, saying, we are going to do everything we can to remove diabetes from this. So what they're doing is they're making life more comfortable for the people that have a diagnosis. So this kind of. Okay, good. The other thing is, advertising is cruel, and if you're working with agencies, they work on campaigns. So what they do is they talk to you about, let's have a 360-degree of what you're doing, and they will create a campaign for you which is running for a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever it's running. But you, as a brand owner, have to start thinking differently. You have to start thinking about looking at it every day, every second. So everything you do is actually a reflection of your brand values. So to give you an example is, Simon Sinek also said it very briefly, the people you hire. It's so important that the people you hire believe in what you believe. It's much more important that that's there. Secondly, of course, they have to have the skills. But if you're having people as you interview and they say, well, you know, you're offering me 8 million, I'm not going to come unless you're going to give me 10. It's a warning sign. It's a warning sign saying to you, I could probably pay 10 because it's going to be more effective. But the question you have to ask back is, you know, I told you that we are all about creating a new life for young kids in Indonesia, providing them with the coolest tools at affordable prices, right? Are you in that? Say, I actually hate kids. I just want 10 million. Then you're hurting yourself. Okay? So, this here is, again, a little theory, but you know how you determine a price. You know, you have the quality perception of a brand is something where you have a price of the brand and the perceived quality of the brand. And in this quadrant, people will accept that if they don't perceive the price to be high and the quality is high enough, it's acceptable. If the price is too high and the quality is not high enough, they'll say it's a ripoff. And if the quality is too high and the price too low, they'll say it's a bargain. Right? That's the mechanism of pricing schemes, right? So I hope you will be able to see this, maybe. Here. Sorry, I'll try and explain it because it doesn't go through that well. So the whole thing you will get out of actually making a value proposition that is driven by the why is you're going to get what we call the soul value. So you can actually sell at the same price, but people will have a perceived higher quality. The soul cue we called it at that time when we created this. And you say, is that for real? But go back and think at Apple again. The reason that you perceive Apple as a higher quality product has nothing to do with the technology specs of the Mac. Nothing to do with the technology specs of your iPhone. The iPhone 6s had lower tech specs than the Samsung Galaxy 4. So if you just forget the software for a second, the Galaxy S4 and the iPhone 6s are not comparable. Galaxy is better quality, higher specs than the iPhone. But even still, if you ask people who have an iPhone 6s Plus, they will say, this is the most fantastic phone in the world. And that is the soul cue. And this is the space you want to be in, because it's going to be very difficult to get people to, first of all, come to the conclusion themselves and say, I've been ripped off. Right? Because I believed in this. And it's very difficult to change people's beliefs. That's why people go to war, right? They believe that we have to do something different. Okay? You can't read the stuff. Don't worry. I'm saying the same thing, so it doesn't matter. You just go over here. Don't worry. Here we can see. So some of the elements that you can work on when you're really working on building your brand is finding triggers of how you can get people to become more loyal, how you get people to actually invest in you. And one of the platforms that are doing that really well is Kickstarter, right? Kickstarter actually gets you to invest in brands before they come. Kickstarter is a fantastic marketing vehicle. I built from 2004 to 2014, I built a music platform in Europe in 12 countries, together with a great team. And the whole idea for us was to make sure that if you're going to have a party, you just go into our platform and you book the party, we have everything for you. Venue, music, food, everything in one place. We also send out the invitations, we make gift lists, we do everything. And logically, it was a fantastic product, but emotionally, it's a one-off thing. We don't have that many parties in Europe, so you have a way